Do you remember Barry Soetoro a few months ago over in Berlin talking to an audience of people about deep fakes? Well, we know what he was trying to do. He was trying to get ahead of all the videos that will be introduced as evidence in satanic ritual abuse, torture, and sacrifice of children. And now it seems that the deep state had recruited the Smithsonian Institution to lend credibility to a bigger bullshit story than 19 hijackers with box cutters. The following video was, the info says, was posted August 28, 2015, but I never saw it until just a few hours ago, and I never heard this bullshit story either until I watched the video you are about to see. If there ever was a prize for bullshitting, this is Pulitzer Prize bullshit that only a moron on crack would believe. As a matter of fact, this groundbreaking excursion into the realm of pure alchemistic bullshit is microns away from the discovery of the legendary Philosopher's Stone of 100% atomically pure, unadulterated bullshit. Bullshit that doesn't smell, doesn't attract flies or dung beetles, and is orders of magnitude more palatable than the Impossible Burger.
Of the Atlantic, two renowned scientists, Frank Greening and Christian Simonson, are challenging the official 9/11 report into the collapse of the Twin Towers.
They're not challenging the official report, as you will see. They are really providing an alternative bullshit story because the first one was picked apart and debunked the moment it was proposed.
They believe that by ignoring the presence of aircraft wreckage in the fires,
there was no aircraft wreckage because no planes hit those buildings. Mainstream media used computer graphics to paint those planes into live coverage. This has been proven by video analysis.
the report missed the true cause of the collapse, one of the most potentially explosive metals on Earth, aluminum.
I agree. You mix aluminum dust particles half a micron in diameter with iron oxide and sulfur, and you get the stuff that can cut steel beams in half at a 45-degree angle. Thermite.
Softer, lighter, and more flexible than iron and steel, it's the ideal material for building aircraft. Under normal conditions, this incredibly flexible and versatile metal is entirely safe, but in extreme circumstances, aluminum can become incredibly volatile. One of those circumstances is when the metal is molten. Molten aluminum is safe until it comes into contact with one of the most common molecules on the planet, causing a highly explosive exothermic reaction. That abundant substance is water. When water comes into contact with molten aluminum, the water molecules recombine, producing aluminum oxide and hydrogen, releasing an explosive amount of energy. Frank Greening and Christian Simonson believe they have found the answer to some of the questions left unexplained by the official report.
Let me stop this artist's conception right here and explain to you that a plane just does not melt into a building. An aluminum plane cannot go through a steel building. The videos that CNN put on their DVD clearly shows a plane going through the building, and the nose of the plane, which is made out of fiberglass because the avionics and the radar are contained within the nose of the plane, come out absolutely unscathed. If you ever seen a plane that was hit by a bird, by a freaking bird, you'll know that this illustration is total, complete, utter, premeditated, prefabricated, Pulitzer Prize-winning bullshit.
The theory goes like this. Inside the burning floors, the building debris collects to form an insulating wall around the aircraft wreckage.
So, all the desks and chairs and cubicle partitions gathered themselves around the debris of the plane. the one which exited the other side of the building with the nose intact, and the plane melted into a blob of metal,
creating a furnace. Inside, the aluminum reaches 1,000 degrees. At 700 degrees above its melting point, the aluminum now flows like water.
Most of the fuel was burned on impact. Fires spewing black smoke proves that the fires were smoldering from lack of oxygen. Besides, this illustration shows the wreckage in one big pile, but the mainstream media videos show the nose of the plane exiting the other side of the building with its nose completely intact. Which bullshit story is more plausible?
Finding cracks and holes in the damaged floor, the molten metal lands in pools of water from the sprinkler system on the floor below. The theory could explain several of the questions unanswered by the official report, including the explosions heard by 118 firemen. If enough aluminum reacted in a single event, it would provide enough force to damage the steel supports sufficiently to weaken them.
And if sparrows had banjos in their asses, and to illustrate the extent to which they're controlling what you are likely to find, even with specific terminology, the classic documentary In Plain Sight, however you spell it with an IN or an NE, is nowhere to be found on their tube. However, a Google search finds it, but calls the documentary a conspiracy theory. Par for the course for these techno-Nazis. I recently exposed a scrub job by Gurgle that originally said that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide in a Hanoi air raid bunker. I'll leave the links for those two videos, number 120 and number 133, in the description. By the way, what province of Libtardistan do you have to live in not to realize that the BBC had a reporter in New York City on 9/11 who, in apparent consultation with Karnak the Magnificent, reported that World Trade Center Building No. 7, otherwise known as the Salomon Brothers Building, that was not hit by a plane, had fallen 25 minutes before it fell at freefall speed directly into its own footprint.
Now, more on the latest building collapse in New York. You might have heard a few moments ago I was talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing. And indeed it has. Apparently that's only a few hundred yards away from where the World Trade Center towers were. And it seems that this was not a result of a new attack. It was because the building had been weakened.
Fully 30 minutes before World Trade Center No. 7 fell, this globalist piece of shit is already spewing the lie and the Stasi mantra, the building was weakened. Weakened by what? A few garbage can fires? Fires started by what? Or more precisely, who? Nothing hit that building at all. Maybe it was the dust of hot pyroclastic flow with hot bits of red-hot aluminum plane fuselage.
During this morning's attacks. We'll probably find out more now about that from our correspondent, Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know.
Already know? How can he already know about something that has not yet happened? Oh, I forgot. My bad.
Details are very, very sketchy. There's almost a sense downtown in New York behind me, down by the World Trade Centers, of just an area completely closed off as the rescue workers try to do their job. But this isn't the first building that has suffered as a result. We know that part of the Marriott Hotel next to the World Trade Center also collapsed as a result of this huge amount of falling debris from 110 floors of the two Twin Towers towers of the World Trade Center. As you can see behind me, the Trade Center appears to be still burning. We see these huge clouds of smoke and ash, and we know that behind that there's an empty piece of what was a very familiar New York skyline, a symbol of the financial prosperity of this city, but completely disappeared now, and New York is still unable to take on board what has happened to them today.
Obviously, reading from a script prepared in advance, either of these two globalist scumbags were not familiar with the New York City skyline or the names of the buildings they were looking at, so they didn't know that the World Trade Center 7 was still standing while they reported on a live broadcast that it fell. And after 18 years, the mass murder of 3,000 innocent civilians has not been adequately investigated. However, there is going to be another inquiry, and that is why a new bullshit story, or at least one I've never heard of, had to be concocted in order to explain molten metal pouring out of windows, but the only explanation that fits is controlled demolition. The only explanation that satisfies the universe of facts is a well-planned, coordinated demolition that demolished two obsolete, union-strangled, asbestos-contaminated, half-empty buildings while providing the New World Order with a new Pearl Harbor, an excuse for endless war for drugs, oil, and an endless supply of orphan children, which could be sex-trafficked, organ harvested, or used for satanic abuse and adrenochrome. Is that enough pure evil for you today? In the description, I have a link to a playlist of over 160 videos. They show both sides of the argument. You are who ultimately decides the truth of the matter. As Q frequently reminds us, think logically. Subscribe to our backup channels, Whirlwind Revolt, Inglorious Patriots, and Net4Truth USA 2 Patriot channel. You can also find us at Net4Truth USA on BitChute. We fly so close to the target, we're on our 4th fighter jet. We will be relentless truth seekers until the enemies of freedom are defeated. You can support this channel by using the links in the description, but for a $100 donation, I will personally send you a autographed hardcover special edition copy of Land of Childhood's Fears. Also, visit my bookstore at lulu.com/Net4Truth USA. If you are viewing this video on BitChute, you can use the links in the description to support us, or simply click the green $ dot on our video to support this channel. Thank you. Links are in the description section.